Welcome to the Startup of the Year podcast, where each episode we showcase exciting new companies from around the world. This podcast is produced by Established, creators of the Startup of the Year program. Established is focused on helping organizations with their innovation, startup, and communication strategies.
Welcome back to the podcast, everyone. I'm Frank Gruber, and on this episode of the Startup of the Year podcast, we're going to hear from an investor, Josef Merrill, about his investment trends and strategy as he works on his Austin-based accelerator down it's the Sputnik ATX accelerator down in Austin. And he funds makers and founders and helps people reach their full potential by creating an ecosystem to attract hardworking nerds and connect them with investors and train them to be successful. So the accelerator is actually looking for startups right now. If you're interested, you can go apply. I think they have their application out on Gust, GUST.com. You go to programs, and then it's Sputnik ATX. I think their 6th program, so summer 2020. So check that out. We'll drop the link in the notes here. But their portfolio kind of is a wide range of different kinds of companies. They have a revolutionary podcasting analytics company. They have a cat care company. You got an oil pipeline corrosion company. So runs the gamut. And really, these companies, they really are trying to find really problem solvers who have a potential to create a lot of consumer surplus for their customers. So looking for a very specific type of person and a very specific kind of problem set that they're trying to solve, and then they pull them in and through the accelerator and try to turn them out to be successful. So before we chat with Josef, though, I wanted to share that we've been doing a number of events online since COVID-19 kind of happened. We spun our South by event to an event online instead of doing it in person, and we've also done a number of other events. Most recently, a female founder focused event, and our next event's coming up here in June. It'll be an event focused on startups and government. It's startups and government compatible at last. And this event was actually supposed to take place at South by Southwest. It was supposed to be a session moderated by our own Rich Malloy from Established, and it ended up obviously not happening. So we're going to bring it online, and hopefully you can join us. There's such a misconception on what it's like working with the government and how maybe a lot of folks think, oh, a startup, I shouldn't be working with the government. That's too hard, right? So we're going to try to, bring to light some of the things that are happening in the current climate. We see a shift happening at all levels of the U.S. government. They're more actively looking for outside innovation rather than creating it themselves. Back in the day, that was kind of the mantra, create it internally, and a lot of things came out of the U.S. government. It's not quite the same anymore. So they're now looking to work with startups, and they're trying to be more startup friendly. So at this online event, you'll hear some of the leaders out there in this realm, and they'll discuss how they're connecting with innovators and really trying to create an opportunity for startups as well as improve the abilities of these different government agencies. So check it out if you get a chance. You can RSVP. We'll drop a link in the show notes, but it's stoi.link/startupsgov event. You can register now. It'll be coming up soon. You're not going to want to miss this one. It's going to be a great one. We've got folks from NASA and AFWorks or AF Ventures, as well as our own Rich Malloy and one other startup there, Startup of the Year last year. We're from Re3D will be joining as well. So she's actually been involved in some of these programs, and it's going to be a great conversation. So not going to want to miss that. So please join us for that. But now we're going to get started with our program. We have a special guest, like I mentioned earlier. It's Josef Merrill. He's down in Austin. Josef, how have you been? What have you been working on? Thanks for joining us.
So we launched an accelerator program.
Got it.
We do teach people how to pitch, and there's obviously a pitch day with the program.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of the emphasis of most accelerator programs. Mm-hmm. We believe in a different startup gospel. Ours is that high growth covers a multitude of sins.
Yeah.
So
yeah, true.
so we are laser-like focused,
Yeah.
punishing people for 13 weeks on how to grow a company.
Right.
Product market fit, rapid product development,
Mm-hmm.
and market
What's it called?
adjustment, which it's just Sputnik ATX.
Sputnik ATX.
So Sputnik
Okay.
ATX,
Yeah,
and
Sputnik,
just
okay.
you can people can go see us SputnikATX.com.
Got it.
My partner Oksana,
Yeah.
she is the managing partner of the fund, and everybody thinks because she's Ukrainian that it was her. It was actually me.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why it's named Sputnik is that when you really look back over the last eons of time,
Yeah.
and you say, in the cosmos of man's development, what were the things that were just really fundamental?
Right.
And when you think about it, the development of integrated circuitry is probably one of those things, but also the first thing mankind put into space.
Yeah.
That's kind of
Yeah.
it's not just kind of a big deal. It's a huge thing, right?
Okay, and I'm getting a nod over here.
You guys are having a great conversation.
Yeah, so we should jump in. Sorry,
Yeah.
I don't want you to have to
well,
repeat.
You can
Yeah.
edit this however you want.
Okay.
You can
All right,
edit this however you want.
I'm here with Joe Merrill, and he's from Sputnik ATX. And
Yes.
thank you for joining me here today. Tell us a little bit more about what you're up to in Austin, Texas.
Yeah. So Sputnik ATX is we are an accelerator, but we're an accelerator with a VC fund.
Okay.
And so what we do is we take companies in on, we have 2 cohorts a year. People apply.
Yep.
We're about to open up our application period next week
Right.
for the winter cohort. We only take 5 to 7 companies.
Okay.
That's it.
Right.
And we put in each company $100,000, and we have an option to do another $250.
Okay.
And we will for high growth companies continue to invest, lead rounds even, and the like. Right.
What kind of vertical are you looking for? Anything or?
Excuse me.
Sure.
We like to say that we do everything that's not evil.
Everything that's not evil.
Right. So
Really?
if you exploit human weakness to make money,
Yeah.
we don't invest.
Right. Doesn't feel good.
No. I mean, it's just that's just not our thing.
That makes sense. And so, how long have you been? When did this start, or what's kind of the history of it?
So Oksana and I started
So Oksana's
investing
your
together. She's
partner.
my partner.
Okay.
We started investing together about 6 years ago, doing A and B round, writing checks between $2 million and $35 million.
Okay. 35 million.
Yeah, and we realized that, we were average,
Right.
right, and we weren't like getting crushed, but we weren't crushing it either,
Right.
right. And we wanted to improve our returns, and we did a big study, just hundreds of everything from accelerators, incubators, later stage. We looked at everything.
All the funds, everything. Yeah.
And we looked for who generates the absolute best cash returns, and how could we do that.
Right.
And we found that by launching this accelerator program, and there's a lot of what I'd call predatory accelerators out there, where they're like, hey, we'll teach you how to pitch and take 6% of your company.
Right. Yeah.
And that's like completely low value added.
Right.
We want to help these companies learn how to grow like a weed. We target and demand from our companies that over the 13 weeks they're in our program, we want to get them up to around 10% week over week growth.
Wow.
And we've been able to do that for everybody coming through our program.
Yeah.
We continue to invest in them as well as they continue to grow. And our curriculum is completely based on just how to grow.
Right.
So product market fit, getting customers, acquiring customers, keeping customers, lowering your churn.
Yep.
Like we joke that we can teach nerds business. You can't do it the other way around. So we look for maker founders.
Right.
And try to give them the tools they need to just crush it.
Yeah.
We also look for companies that generate massive consumer surplus, which is the difference between what you're willing to pay and what you do pay for something.
Right.
Because the more consumer surplus you generate, the easier it is for someone to say yes. And when you first get started doing anything, you got to find.
I'm trying to think of some companies that fit that.
Uber.
Uber, yeah, right.
Right.
There's a few.
like basically every single successful startup generates massive consumer surplus because you're trying to convince people to try something new. And if there isn't an apparent, obvious, massive value there. So if you think about Facebook, most people might pay $5 a month to keep in touch with their friends and share pictures and stuff like that.
Right.
They give it to you for free.
Right.
And then they monetize, and so that's consumer surplus right there.
Right.
Free versus $5 for billions of people.
Yeah.
Because there's more consumer surplus to be generated in ad markets, which are huge.
Right.
Far bigger than the
$5.
photo sharing
Right,
market.
$5.
Right.
The photo sharing app.
The photo sharing market is not big.
Right.
The global advertising market is huge.
Right.
And it used to be that advertisers would have to, put up a billboard or take out a full page ad in a newspaper.
Yep.
And maybe less than 3% of the people who saw it would even be interested or at a point where they could make a purchase decision.
Right.
So really inefficient, very large.
Yeah.
And they're like, hey, we have a better value prop for a third of the money you're spending on that.
And I hear it can actually influence people.
Yes, and it does actually influence people. We can, and this is digital marketing now as a whole, right? That digital marketing is like, we're going to micro-target, you know, only the people who you're looking for at the point in which they're going to make a decision.
Right.
And we'll do it for a fraction of the cost of mass media. And so you're generating massive consumer surplus for advertisers, and businesses that do that, you know, especially if you can do it on a two-sided marketplace, right? Where both people in the marketplace are getting a better deal than they got before.
Right.
Like Airbnb, Uber, this goes on and on. Great businesses.
Totally.
Yeah.
And so you love those businesses, what you're saying.
We love businesses that generate consumer surplus. So, for example, we have in our current cohort a company called Elite Sweets. They make a nutritious donut. Like, no joke.
I think I saw that somewhere,
It's a donut that is good for you.
Wow.
So when we saw their application, we're like, well,
of course I saw that.
I can make a nutritious donut, and I know what it would taste like, right?
Exactly.
So send us over some donuts.
Right.
And they were
good.
They were so good. I thought, they're tricking me. Like, there's no way.
Right.
But as we got to know them, you know,
they weren't tricking you.
No. They have someone from Udi's on their team. One of the founders of Udi's is on their team.
Oh, cool.
And no, totally legit.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the idea where a couple of UT students were like, what if we could just eat donuts and they'd be nutritious? Like, how awesome would that be? And, you know, they did it.
Right.
You know, like the world needs what? World peace, economic security, and a nutritious donut.
Healthy donuts. Yeah.
And they can't do the first two, but they've solved the third problem for all of mankind. And
amazing.
But that's again, that's great consumer surplus, because if you had the choice of eating a junk food donut or a good donut, you'd pick the good donut.
You would,
as long as it tastes just as good, and that's what they've done. And so again, consumer surplus is there. 15 grams of protein, amino acids, like flowing like a river.
Wow.
Just a nutritious thing. Give it to your kids on their way out the door for school with a banana, and they have a complete meal.
That's amazing.
Just crazy.
That's cool. So tell me a little bit more of then. So you've got the accelerator, you got a couple of cohorts a year. You're still doing investing though as well. Is it just in the companies that come through, or are you doing other stuff too?
We do occasionally do outside stuff, but again, that's a fifth of the portfolio. We're reserving most of our capital going forward for the companies that come through our program.
Really cool.
And we're on we're just about to graduate our fourth cohort. We have over 20 companies in the pipeline, so we've got a pretty robust deal flow for our ongoing funds.
And are you looking for? I may have asked this already. Are you looking for companies just in Texas or everywhere?
So, great question. For the accelerator program, we require you to be in Texas or relocate to Texas.
Right.
For a $100,000 check with the $250,000 follow-on, you need to be close. Or else we can't really help you.
Right. Yeah.
The other thing is, Texas is a great place to have a startup. It's probably the best place to have a startup. You have a very low cost. It's cheap to live there. There's no state income tax. So if you start to get traction and you make a profit, you're not going to be giving a third of it away, to who knows. But it's a great place. There's a great thick market for talent there. There is a thick market emerging now in venture capital as well. More and more funds are announcing that they're in Austin. Mithril came there 2 years ago. And then you have a lot of the former Austin Ventures partners. They've kind of split up and they all have their own funds right now as well. So there's a real diverse number of
Mercury's there as well, right?
Yeah. The other thing too is that I would say the coastal money now is coming inland because they realize that their returns kind of stink in their traditional markets, or they're getting harder. There are diminishing returns to every industry, and they've kind of reached that. And so, you can raise money now from the coasts in Texas without, for later rounds. Again, early, no. But
You do
later
local,
rounds, you bet. A round,
great.
B round, C round. You can raise money from the coast if you need to.
Very cool. So what are some of the, so focused on growth, what are some, like for anybody listening, because a lot of startups listen to this, a lot of other investors listen as well, just maybe share like high level, what's your biggest thing that you see, that problems you see with growth? Because I know it seems like that's your area of expertise.
I think from both the perspective of founders and investors, people kind of want the new shiny thing.
Right.
Where I think most of the money is made in taking maybe something that's 10 or 20 years old technology and applying it to something that no one thought of before. So, for example, you know, there's like a lot of examples. But, you know, we've had
non-sexy places that you put technology and all of a sudden it's just
correct.
Way to go, yeah.
Correct. Like if you look at like these marketplace models, right?
Yep.
I mean, people could be applying it. I just saw somebody the other day, and they're applying it to some type of trash thing, right?
Yep.
And it's a really cool model, and it works really well because apparently the garbage market is really inefficient, and it's all manual.
And even some of the recycling programs are going away.
Correct.
Because people don't put things in the right spot.
Yes.
There's no education around, so no one knows what to do. So everything goes to garbage anyway.
And China stopped taking plastic.
And they stopped taking plastic. So that's a huge market that could be taken care of.
And there are people who take plastic in the U.S. and Canada and Mexico, and they actually do recycle it.
Yes.
And
just getting it to them.
No one paid attention to them before.
Right.
Because it was more expensive than shipping it to China. And so you create a marketplace that connects all of these people.
Dots,
because recycling plastic doesn't have the economies of scale that collecting plastic has, so you have a marketplace that's inefficient.
Yep.
And someone can bring that technology to bear. Now,
that's a great example.
That's not a new thing.
No.
That's been around. People have been building online, you know, marketplaces for a long time, but no one's ever applied it to that problem.
Right.
And so
most people are just either burying it in the backyard or throwing it into the ocean.
Correct.
So
and there will be things that come along that are just completely new. Right. I'm being facetious, obviously. You know, but there's a big opportunity there. Yeah, we have a company that does fuel cell membranes.
Yeah.
And their membranes will work at any temperature.
Cool.
Which no one's ever done before.
Wow.
And that's kind of the thing that prevents fuel cells from becoming widespread, because those membranes fall apart at 40 degrees Celsius.
Right.
And what do you do in a boiling hot water fuel cell engine? Right. Your membrane collapses. So, barring a really expensive coolant system, which is what they have.
Right.
It's impractical. So he just went about building one that works at any temperature.
There you go.
You know, and so there will be things like that come along with those. Tend to be few and far between.
Right. Well, even the example you used before, which doesn't seem as spot on, but making a donut healthy. You know,
making a healthy donut.
There you go.
Making a healthy donut. You know.
It's been around for ages. No one's ever said that.
Nobody's ever said, hey, let's make a nutritious donut.
Right.
Because only a bunch of college students sitting around in a dorm would come up with an idea like that.
Right.
And then actually spend time figuring it out.
Yeah.
You know?
Totally.
And so, again, just, and there's a lot out there, I think, that, you know, I mean, fundamentally, the internet itself, right, isn't that new.
Right.
But the ways we're finding to use it are becoming super innovative.
Yeah.
And pretty exciting.
Thank you so much, Joseph, for that amazing insight. Hopefully it'll help some of our listeners either decide which startups they should invest in, or help some of our startups who are out there trying to pitch, and maybe they'll tailor their pitch to be, you know, more in line with potential investors now. So hopefully you learned something along the way. It was a great episode. And this is unfortunately the end of our episode. So thanks again so much for listening to the Startup of the Year podcast. Please remember to subscribe to our podcast, share it, love it, review it, whatever you want to do. And as always, keep starting up. We need more people like you starting up out there and creating innovation and improving the world. So until next time, I'm your host, Frank Gruber. See you out there on the field.
Thanks for listening to the Startup of the Year podcast. Be sure to subscribe, and we'll be back with another episode soon.